All right, let's get it. Welcome back to On to the Next Thing. I'm Michael, your host, and we are still on the apocalyptic shit-ass fucking rando schedule. Thanks to my attendance of graduate school. Gonna have basically two main topics today. First, I'm going to be discussing one of my first jobs coming out of college. This is going to be a career episode, at least partly. And then the other chunk of the episode is going to be a review of Paradise 1 by David Wellington, a book that I finally finished and feel like I have enough material to bitch about. I mean, talk about and discuss in a respectful manner. Yeah, those are the main topics. I might throw some other stuff in if I think of it at the time. But before we do that, we're going to get into some bird news. All right, we gotta I gotta get a real soundbite for bird news. I either need to record it myself or I need to get more of that sweet royalty-free music off the internet. All right, bird news from the BBC. We have Oriental Turtledove, racism to start bird news. Can't believe it. Nah, psych, that's just the common name that they still use in Britain for some reason. Oriental Turtledove, rare bird ruffling feathers with appearance in Northern Ireland. This is by Barry O'Connor. That's a pretty North Irish name. The first ever sighting of a rare bird on the island of Ireland has caused a flap as bird watchers and enthusiasts travel to catch a glimpse. The Oriental Turtledove was spotted in Lisburn, County Antrim, with reports suggesting people have traveled from as far away as Cork to see the flighty visitor. The doves differ from the European variety in that it is larger and grayer. They are typically found in Asia but have been recorded in the UK on occasion. Birdwatcher Michael Latham said that its appearance is creating quite a lot of excitement across the birdwatching community. Latham, who snapped a picture of the bird, said it was very significant. There's been a lot of birders who have traveled around to come and see this bird and hopefully get a good look at it. He said it was originally thought it was a regular turtledove, but that this variant is a heck of a lot rarer. That was a quote, a heck of a lot rarer. And while there had been sightings in Great Britain, this was the first on the island. As to where the bird came from, there is a theory it may have arrived from the Shetland Islands in Scotland. Latham said the first reported sightings of this bird was in December, shortly after two of the species had left the islands. Ornithologist Dr. Kes Armstrong said the reports from the Shetlands mean this bird may be a genuine vagrant. However, the species is, quote, goddammit, however, the species is regularly kept in private collections, so we should be mindful that it may be an escapee. Regardless, its appearance has generated quite a bit of excitement amongst the birdwatching community across the island, end quote, she added. Quote, I would recommend that if anyone is hoping to catch a glimpse of the bird, that they are respectful of the residents living in the area and careful not to cause the bird any undue distress. Gary Wilkinson, one of those who traveled to spot the bird, said people had come from all over for a, quote, once-in-a-lifetime sighting. He added that a European turtledove wintered at a terrace house in Cartagher Road in Lisburn a couple of years ago, joking that, quote, Lisburn must have some attraction for the species. All right, and that's got to be the end of it. Nope, there's just more people. Hopefully it'll... let me get one more quote here. Quote from Andrew Upton, a senior research ecologist for the British Trust for Ornithology in Northern Ireland, said there was a really big crowd, and, quote, hopefully it will be able to fend for itself, and maybe he'll hopefully be able to relocate back to Asia in due course and find all its other relatives. Great article. Nice and easy to, wet the palate. Here's something a little bit. Let's turn it up a little bit. This is from WPEC, I assume in Florida. Deputies rescue injured bald eagle from alligator-filled canal in Palm City. Let's fucking go. This is from Eric Weiss. Eric Weiss, perhaps, if he's really that German. He probably just pronounces it Weiss because he's in Palm City, Florida. A dramatic rescue in Palm City may have saved the life of a bald eagle after the injured bird ended up in a canal known to have large alligators, according to the Martin County Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office said the call came from a resident of the Stewart West Cobblestone community who reported that a large bald eagle had crash-landed in a yard. When the bird tried to take off again, deputies said it instead wound up in a nearby canal. According to MCSO, Corporal William Weiss and Animal Services Officer Shannon McGee went into the water after the eagle as it struggled and began moving farther from the shore. Two were able to safely secure the bird and bring it back to land. The Sheriff's Office also credited the resident for calling right away, saying the quick report played a critical role in the rescue. Officials said the eagle was taken to a local wildlife hospital where it is in stable condition and is being evaluated. The bird appears to have suffered a significant wing injury, according to the sheriff's office. MCSO Mixo, how about that? Said more updates will be shared as they become available. Well, that's good. At least, I don't know. That's something. I was going to say something about cops. I guess maybe that's one point in favor of cops. They need all the points they can get, but fuck it. Whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm going to cut that whole joke out because that fucking sucked. Come on, dude. Just say that they're trying to fucking deport it or whatever. Fuck it. Fuck Florida. Fuck Florida. It's ruining my podcast. What else we got here? Tiny Fossils, Richmond Township, Protecting Birds on the Move, See It, M Live. Ooh, here's one that's not bird news technically, but it's something interesting because I want to see what the fuck they're talking about here. Jet blue plane hits animal on takeoff, but it wasn't a bird. And I'm hoping this wasn't the fire truck. I hope they're not considering the fire truck to be an animal, the one that hit a plane in LaGuardia. Probably not, but who knows. This is by Brandon Champion. Wow, what a great name. See, that's the type of name they needed the BBC instead of fucking O'Connor or like Kigglesburn or something like that. Whatever the fuck they got there. Barry Keegleson. Shit like that. It's never something cool like Brandon Champion. All right, here's the article. Collisions between birds and planes happen from time to time, but passengers on a JetBlue flight recently had a different type of animal encounter. WPRI TV in Providence, I didn't even know Providence had a fucking airport, reported Tuesday that flight 1129 from Rhode Island to New York. Once again, why? Doesn't seem like a very far distance, but I don't know. I guess the traffic really does suck that bad. Returned safely to TF Green Airport in Warwick. I've never heard of that one at all. Sorry for all the digressions, but like Rhode Island having an airport, I never consider Rhode Island to be a place that has an airport. It's like a weird little rump state on the end of New England. Like I don't think of it as a place where you need to have an airport. It's like having a direct flight from like fucking Hartford, Connecticut to New York City. Like just drive or take a fucking boat. It's very, whatever. There's got to be some logistical meaning behind it. Okay. So flight 1129 from Rhode Island to New York returned safely to TF Green Airport in Warwick after hitting a coyote on the runway on Tuesday morning. Damn. Passenger Aaron Drozda from Woonsocket. Fuck me. I'm going to get roasted by all the Rhode Islanders in the comments. I don't know how to fucking pronounce Woonsocket. How about Woonsocket? Woonsocket. Whatever. We were up in the air for about 10-15 minutes, and then all of a sudden the captain came on and said, "This is the flight crew. If anyone heard that thud, we hit a coyote," Drozda said, adding that many on the flight originally thought it was a joke. There were no injuries. Stupid ass fucking Rhode Islanders. There were no injuries, and the flight took off for New York later in the morning. JetBlue confirmed the incident in a statement, saying the coyote made contact. Nice job with the spelling, guys. This is why AI has taken over your job. Made contact with the aircraft's landing gear. I assume they meant contact. While on the runway while taking off. The flight landed safely and a full inspection was done on the aircraft with no issues reported, the statement said. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, there have been about 292,000 reported wildlife strikes with civil aircraft in the U.S. between 1990 and 2023. An additional 5,100 strikes have been reported by U.S. air carriers at foreign airports, like as part of the ongoing bird FedEx war. At about 96% of all strikes with civil aircraft in the U.S. involve birds, with strikes with other animals such as deer, coyotes, turtles, skunks, bats, alligators, and iguanas have also been reported. White-tailed deer and coyotes are the most struck non-bird species, according to the FAA. Fascinating information. All right, that's all some really fucking mild bird news, but it's like, I don't know, man. What else am I supposed to read about? Birds are dying of bird flu. I'm probably going to die of fucking bird flu, or in Iran. But I'm not going to talk about that because this is not my political show here, all right? I got a fucking career to do, okay? This is the fun thing. I'm distracting you from all the shit in the world. Aren't you grateful? Aren't you grateful that I'm such a source of wholesome entertainment in these trying times? Well, you should be. And I'm a source of career advice. That's not like, not career advice. Like, don't take legal action against me if this career advice doesn't work out. Okay, this is just what I've been doing. All right. So this portion, I'm going to talk a little bit about my first job coming out of college. I've talked about some of the jobs that I had going into college and a little bit during college, although I didn't talk about my campus jobs. Oh, shit. All right. Maybe I'll talk about campus jobs next time. Like, I got other anecdotes. I don't have to do this all in chronological order. The campus jobs are pretty funny, and some of them were actually pretty interesting, but this job was pretty interesting too. So right out of college, I was an environmental science bachelor's degree graduate. I had a dual degree, which is cool, but essentially it was like, all right, I guess I'll be a biological technician or some type of environmental scientist. At least in my region, there were basically, like 3 different jobs that you could get with the degrees that I had, and not going for a graduate degree. Basically, you could get either a biological or ecological or conservation technician style job. And by technician, they usually mean like fucking maintenance worker, basically, for science projects. If they're putting up bird netting, you're the one putting nets into the ground in the hot summer day. You're going to be the one, there's like things like, I guess there's a fourth option, and that's trail crews. And so like in the hierarchy, probably the lowest are trail crews, even though technically that's the most fun if you're in shape and like being outdoors. Because all trail crews do is they live out in like national parks and shit for a while. They usually get housing of some kind or housing nearby. And then they just get to basically wander around, fix trails, work on stuff, build fencing and railings and handholds and steps and things like that in the park. Pick up trash sometimes. But basically, mostly a lot of it is just kind of hiking on the trail and making sure the trail's in good condition. And I never did that sort of thing, but to me it seems like it would have been cool, but I just, all my meager handful of friends were where I am, and most of the opportunities that could actually house me and pay me were far away. There were ones that were volunteer in my region, but I didn't want to volunteer. I needed to make some fucking money. So trail crew was generally out of there because I kind of wanted to stay in the area for a little bit, and really the benefits weren't that great unless I was also working towards another degree, which I wasn't at the time. And so I didn't know what the fuck I was really doing. So I decided, trail crew, maybe not. I did apply for some, but I'm also not that much of a badass. I don't think I was even in good enough shape to do trail crew at the time, but I digress. Next up was biological environmental technicians type of work, which is basically it's like trail crew, but you're basically maintaining and setting up like research projects and like doing stuff like monitoring birds and monitoring mammals and taking water samples and shit like that. Sometimes you could get a job that was like contract with the state where you can like go out and like weigh shellfish that are coming in from the fishermen, or be like an auditor to make sure people aren't shooting too many deer and things like that. You could sometimes get kind of cool stuff like that, but mostly it's just like, hey, want to take samples or watch birds or pulling weeds. Huge one. Invasive species management, that shit's hard work. Fucking pain in the ass, dirty ass work, because you're either spraying poisons or you're pulling plants or you're fucking killing shit, like killing animals and shit, like invasive animals, if you're in a hardcore type of place. Other types of jobs, well, actually, really just kind of one more that was the one that was actually available to me, and that's being a quote-unquote environmental specialist. This means level 1 grunt at your local environmental consulting firm, which generally means you're moving barrels of toxic shit out of the labs in the city, and you're driving it around in a truck and taking it to a disposal area or to your warehouse for storage. And then you're filling out paperwork and hanging out in the office with some of the most like dull fucking people alive. At least that was the sentiment I got. Because guess what? I chose biotechnician. It's particularly an invasive species technician with a local NGO. And this was honestly kind of my first pick, because in my mind, my path was going to be basically not getting a master's degree immediately. I wanted to get some work experience first, and I wanted to get my foot in the door in stuff that I found interesting. And, you know, back in the day, I thought I was kind of a pessimist. I never really thought things would turn out okay. But for some reason, I was an optimist when it came to getting valuable work experience in the field and having that translate to better jobs in the sciences and in other environmentally friendly industries and practices moving forward. I thought that I could actually make it that way, which is like sort of true, but also like, damn, if I had started out like 2 years later, I would be in deep fucking shit right now. Like deeper shit that I am already. Like I'd be using this podcast as my main source of income if I had started out probably even 2 years later. But luckily this was 2 years earlier. And so I started a job as an invasive species or an invasive, particularly invasive plant technician, which essentially meant that I am pulling weeds in the hot sun for usually between 37 and 40 hours a week. But these NGOs and nonprofits, they tend to try and keep your hours just below 40, so they don't have to give you like insurance and like other real benefits and shit. So that's cool. Like, yeah, none of that, no overtime. They want to make sure I'm not paying you overtime, and they don't have to give you health insurance. And that's very important for their budgetary reasons, which is like, I get it, but also, man, what the fuck? Like, what if I was a real adult? These people didn't even have housing. Sometimes places would have housing, but that was usually for people who had like real experience and were like going to be hanging around for a while and didn't have like their parents' house to fall back on like I did. That was lucky for me. I will say that, you know, if you have even a moderately okay relationship with your parents, milk that and use it to save money by staying at home. Like moderately good relationship, I'm not talking like, oh man, they took away my fucking laptop and they tell me that my dreams are stupid. Like everyone tells you your dreams are fucking stupid, you know? Unless they tried to sell you for heroin as a kid, or like killed your pet, or like I don't know, fucking physically beat you somehow even though you're college age and they're fucking old. Like unless it's any one of those things, you can hash it out for a little while. Because ideally they appreciate hard work. And you know what? I guess the other one would be if they're like total leeches and are like, you have to help us with everything and pay for all our stuff because you're making money and we're not charging you rent. If it's something that's like parasitic like that, then yeah, you probably got to get the fuck out of there. But if it's just like you can stay around here, you got to do chores, and we're not going to be totally happy that you're around. Or like even that they're charging you rent, like a little bit of rent. Usually the amount of rent your parents are charging you, not equal to the rent in the real world, which fucking sucks ass, especially if you're trying to come out on an environmental salary. You know, if you're a finance bro listening to this, I guess an aspiring finance bro might be fucked. Everyone might be fucked. That's the thing. Everyone might be fucked. Everyone who doesn't have like a engineering or a doctorate or like some type of medical, professional, or technical skills, you might be fucked. But back in the day, if you were finance bro, you come out, you're making $80K, you're fucking good. It doesn't matter. You don't have to live at home unless you really, really fucking want to. But anyway, my point is that you can hash it out with your parents at home. And I did that for a while. And did I start to develop a little bit more alcoholism? Perhaps. Was that entirely my fault? Mostly. This fucking cat. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, you fucking hairy piece of shit. You're gonna make me spill my beer. Get the fuck away from me. Speaking of alcoholism, am I right, guys? Whatever. It's been a long day, and this is some good beer, so we're in a good place. Yeah, it sucked, but it like the first couple months, this was really just a summer job, so it was mostly fine as far as the home front went. The job front was a bit of a different story. Here's the thing about, especially like nature-based or environmental-based or wildlife-based NGOs, especially if it's one of like the legacy ones like Audubon or Greenpeace, ones that have like local chapters and like fundraising stuff in the community. Especially this one was in a pretty wealthy community, so they had like a lot of shit going on. They had better equipment probably. If they actually had the expertise or the desire to make like a real environmental difference, they probably were potentially better equipped for it than at least the state government. The feds had a pretty good outpost nearby because we were kind of near like a national wildlife conservation area type of thing. But yeah, this NGO was one where it's like, it's got a committee of trustees and shit like that. It's not the trustees you're thinking of, but I don't know, maybe it is. Who knows who I was employed with? There's a lot of those types of weird little like rich people. I love nature, but I would never ever give up any of my wealth to do it type of NGOs. You know that shit. If you don't, let me describe it to you. It's like, they have the people up top who are like, administrators and like fundraiser people. They have like a board of directors, which are usually just like wealthy donors and patrons who want to go and like watch birds in a beautiful nature preserve area, basically. It's like kind of having like a lordship preservation thing, or like a king's hunting forest type of thing. It's like the king has his own land, but it's like his own hunting land, and peasants aren't allowed to poach on it. Except in this case, they compromise a little bit and let us peasants use it, but maybe not all the best spots. Some areas are closed for quote unquote maintenance or whatever. But I digress. So you have like the fundraiser people, then you have like the core science and like keeping the organization and keeping the organization running and keeping like the land good type of people. Usually have like one big IT dude with maybe some interns. They had like a GIS guy, which was pretty cool. I kind of wanted to talk to the GIS guy more, but I think I maybe ran into him once. I was like, I like GIS, and he's like, yeah, sure, cool, you fucking loser, shut the fuck up. He said those exact words to me. It made me fucking cry. No. What are we? Yeah. And then they'll have like a biological director or like a director of ecology who's like a scientist or someone with a master's degree who generally knows what they're talking about and like kind of works with things. Works with other like government organizations and things like that to do little conservation projects. One time we had one where like a mayoral or like a state senate, or no, I think it was actually like a House of Representatives guy came down to like basically to ostensibly it was to help with controlling this invasive coastal plant that was in the marshlands and on the shorelines. And they were supposed to help us out, but really it ended up being like a half-hour photo op, and then me and the actual crew had to go and clean up all the rest of the fucking plants and take all the trash bags back in. Like it was good because it brought awareness to like the organization or whatever, and probably helped that guy's campaign maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's goofy shit like that. It's stuff that the government itself wouldn't actually do. Because the government doesn't do environmental propaganda because we want to have a fucking extractive fucking country. Yeah, get all the fucking resources out. This is our fucking planet. Ah! That type of shit. But NGOs can do it. Environmental NGOs can be like, wow, look at all this fun environmental shit we're doing. Wow, even one of the less influential politicians in our state is involved. Woo! Shit like that. And now usually people who are directing kind of conservation operations is someone who's like maybe a scientist or like a retired scientist. Unfortunately, our direct report was like one of the fundraiser guys who had kind of just gotten booted over to like operations because the other people, like he literally would mention like, oh, you know, I'm not always the one who people want to work with all the time. And it's like, oh, cool. So we have like the chatty Cathy, like psycho dude ruling over us and telling us where to go and what to do. And to his credit, he did a pretty good job. He had obviously run like kind of programs like this before. But really all the whole, you know, the being the scientists, you know, barely scientists. We aren't doing research or anything, but we're doing scientific work. And, you know, basically just doing all the work and doing a lot of the coordinating was done on our own between me and the four other people in the crew. Four other people in the crew. Yeah. And it was kind of an interesting situation because I was like, oh wow, on the job description, this job said that it was for people with a degree and recommended if you have experience with GIS and if you have experience doing this stuff. And I was like, I fucking know about invasive plants and I like GIS. Fuck it, yeah, get me in there, motherfucker, yeah. And then when I got there, 3 out of the 4 other people there were fucking undergrads. Undergrads from like, admittedly from good environmental programs, usually at like, you know, University of Vermont. I think one came out from like Wyoming and shit. And they were cool people, but it was like, damn, dude, I got a degree so I could be making what ended up being fucking minimum wage next to some undergrads who are doing this for fucking college credit and money and just like getting experience, and like they're getting the same experience 2 years into their fucking college career that I'm getting now. Fucking crazy. That broke my brain a little bit, but you know, the work was interesting at times because we got to we were just doing like the grueling, like pulling weeds in the fucking hot sun because we were out in a marsh, and so there was rarely any trees or any shade. So we were just sitting in the fucking heat, and it was sucked ass. Heat and bugs and sun, and I don't mind bugs and sun and shit. I'm actually pretty good at not getting bit by bugs, which is why I do the work that I fucking do in the first place. But it definitely was a lot, especially knowing that I'd never be getting overtime, and we had to cut days just shy of 8 hours to make sure that we weren't fucking going over that. And I was like, damn guys, come on, let me ride up against 40 hours because I need all the money I can get. Like, I'm trying to fucking move out of my parents' house if I can. And they were like, oh my God, Michael, you're such a fucking loser idiot. And no, they were actually very nice, but they were like, can we just like go? It's hot and I want to fucking go home. I have homework to do. There was one other person who was also a recent graduate, about a year older than me. And she was pretty good. And she was dedicated enough where she actually got like a real job there, which I was like, damn, I wish I was more dedicated. But I think I was kind of a grump. And I tend to give off kind of like not even bad vibes, but at least when I was younger, I definitely gave up the I don't fucking give a fuck, and I'm not super easygoing and easy to work with, and I'm not gonna do a bunch of work for you type of vibes. And so that's not that, and the fact that I still wasn't the oldest despite being older than a majority of the others. Basically meant that I wasn't going to get like the more permanent role, which I believe ended up being in our organization, although the U.S. Fish and Wildlife also were interested in her, because that was the other half of what we did. We worked with like the federal government, I believe U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and no, not EPA, but U.S. Fish and Wildlife had an outpost nearby, and so we would help them set up like wildlife fences and like doing some little fun surveys and things like that. And it's stuff that I had done a little bit as a volunteer, doing similar work in the area over the summer, over previous summers in college and in high school. And so that stuff was interesting. It was cool to be working on like part of a big thing. Sometimes we get to meet up in the air-conditioned U.S. Fish and Wildlife Office and hang out in their little area with all like the different books about resource management practices and animal field guides and shit like that. And it was cool. We could just hang out while the bosses kind of talked, and we could have some input and shit like that. It was great. It was a lot of fun, even though minimum wage and shit, but what are you gonna do? So yeah, that was kind of the situation. And there were a lot of things that were like fun and weird about the job. Like our boss guy, he was an odd dude. I mean, he was a strange guy. Like he was theoretically into nature, but I think he really just liked being like pretending to be a scientist, even though he literally had like a finance background or like a business management or like maybe even computer science background. I don't think it was computer science. I think he did, or maybe like architecture. It was something strange like that, and where it was like, yeah, my wife is the doctor who makes all the money, and then I get to do this, and it's like, oh, cool. That's, I'm not all about like traditional gender roles or anything, but it was a little bit off-putting considering he was like in his late 50s or 60s, and he was just being like, yeah, this is what I do. And it's like, or no, not even 50. He was probably like early 50s at oldest, but he seemed like kind of old in general, but like, I don't know. He was an odd fella. He was a type of guy that you could see on like a golf course somewhere at like a country club, and like a dude who kind of seems nice, but is also kind of weirdly like gossipy, but he's like straight. He has a wife. He's not like, he's not gay or like a pedophile or anything. Not that being gay is wrong. Being a pedophile is a little but it's like he gave off kind of odd vibes, and I was the only other male in the crew, and the rest were woman or non-binary, and he had a habit of calling them a crew of brawny women. Which is like, number one, like, hey, fuck you, man. A lot of women don't really like being called brawny. But he's like, oh, man, it has a compliment. It's fine. It's like, god damn. Weird ass dude. Yeah, he screwed up pronouns and things like that. And for me, it was like, he's an older guy, so he's not gonna get a lot of wins in the pronoun game just because, he's a fucking rich boomer, and he's never have to give a shit about anything. And so the fact that he even loosely gave a shit about pronouns was like, okay, that's cool. He kind of did that. But yeah, he's constantly trying to get up in our business about stuff like, oh, what are you doing this time? You should be trying to do this. And like, let's try and get all this done. And it's like, all right, thank you for pushing us, but you have no fucking say in what we're doing. And you're making us vacuum out the vans that we're using, because they're the same vans that you take your rich friends bird watching in. And it's like, man, this is like a fucking bullshit job. Like I have a fucking degree, and this is like I'm doing like weird grunt work shit. Like, once again, I don't mind pulling the weeds, but like it was all like all the extra weird shit for the NGO, where it was like, oh, we're gonna come around and we can talk to these other fucking old fucks who are just hanging out and are like, I really like birds. My favorite bird is the peregrine falcon. And it's like, okay, thank you. I like that too. Have you seen the ospreys right now? Like, yes. Or having them take part in like other asinine projects that they don't have like the actual resources to undertake, and so they're just having someone who has like a background in like working in like an animal shelter, and like having them try and do like restoration fish ecology. It was the most bizarre thing. They were trying to take like not zebra mussels, but it was a different type of mussel. It was like a native mussel. Zebra mussels are invasive. I know that because I'm an invasive species guy, or ex-invasive species technician, rather. But they were trying to use mussels to build up like to help build up organic marine barriers. To help prevent erosion and like the degradation of salt marshes. Because if you build up big colonies of mussels, like almost like a coral reef or something like that, or you pair them with existing like reefs and things like that, they can kind of help break up the wave energy, and that stops the erosion, which is like, an interesting idea if you can actually get the mussels to breed, and if you've actually tested whether they have the integrity to deal with like storm surge or whatever and aren't just going to crumble. I don't know. It seemed like there had been other tests by real scientists in the past, but these guys, they were trying to, the program like began and ended with just figuring out how to make the mussels breed. It was just trying to get these mussels to fuck. And the only way they fuck is either like specific times of year where they all just spawn like crazy, or you can induce it through like chemical stress or like physical stress. But what they decided to do was fucking eviscerate, like literally like cut apart like a quarter of the mussels, and just let all of their like fluids and like basically just semen fucking flying around the tank to try and get them to breed that way. And as it turns out, fucking killing the mussels and making them like ejaculate through dying wasn't the best way to get them to reproduce. So that went fucking nowhere. I don't know if they ever tried that again. I just know it was traumatizing to all the little high school level volunteers and interns going around there and being like, what the fuck is that? And us people who are actually employed there were like, this is not us. This is their weird mad science project over here. This is not our shit. Yeah. That was fucking strange. So basically, the main issue, other than the pay and the intentional lack of benefits, was the guy. And the guy is an odd dude. And at one point, the crew banded together and was like, "Hey, we need you to quit being so fucking strange and like misgendering the non-binary person and doing stuff like that," which was admirable. But really, in reality, there wasn't a lot that he was doing that was bad. It was more that he was just being fucking irritating, which is one of the most annoying type of bosses, or types of person to work with in general. People who are just like, they aren't like really creepy, or they aren't like hostile or anything, but they're just fucking annoying to work with. And it's like they might be good people who just have like weird like upper crust fundraiser social skills that don't really mesh well with people who actually care and are trying to do fucking environmental work. Or maybe he's just an odd dude and that's why he got bumped out of the fundraiser crew. But it's like, but it's like you can't get them fired unless you do something malicious to like frame them and get them fired, which is like, that's fucked up. I don't want to do that. And that ends the fucking program anyway. It's a non-profit technically, or like an NGO at least. And it's just fucking, it's a tough situation to be in. And so when we finally kind of ended that shit, that was, it was bittersweet because like the people, the crew, they were cool people. They inspired me to get in shape because I was like, these fucking undergraduate girls are lapping me in being able to carry fucking bags of dead plants and walk around and shit like that. So I was like, I got to get in better shape. So that got me a little bit kickstarted back on my fitness journey after my post-college alcohol slump, So that was good. And, I still, I don't speak with the people necessarily, but I do follow them on social media, and, we kind of know of each other, and their careers are doing pretty well. And my careers are doing well. So, for now. But yeah, overall, like generally a good experience. But once again, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if I'm in charge of shit, like this might become a theme moving forward if the podcast keeps going. And especially if I make a political offshoot podcast, if I get like fired or just like don't have any sort of career options or anything like that. If I'm in charge, these fucking, some of these NGOs, like a lot of them can just kind of move along, right? But the big ones, especially the big ones with a lot of branches, they're getting a real thorough audit and a real thorough scrubbing to make sure no more weirdo bullshit is going to happen. No setting up like stupid fucking get-togethers, no making people clean out the fucking company cars and shit like that, or not even the company code, just like having a separate vehicle or letting us take our own vehicles, you know, just shit to like, you know, give the workers benefits if they're actually going to be trying to work full time and like be real adults, you know, that would be cool. Shit like that. It would be gently impressed upon these NGOs if I was in charge. Just saying. All right, let's kick it over to book review. Let's cap this off with a book review because we got about 20 minutes left, making good time. Let me just slug some more fucking delicious winter ale. All right, hoorah. Let's talk about Paradise 1. So Paradise 1, it was one that I basically started reading it like really early this year. It's a science fiction horror novel by David Wellington, and it was one that I started reading like in February or something like that. I think I had recently finished. I had finished something else. I had finished the Grace of Kings, which is a good starter fantasy book. Pretty cool. Duh. God damn it! There's fucking cat hair in my nose and gas in my gut. What the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm just a meek, young-ish podcast host. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Anyway, this book took a while to get through initially. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, busy with courses. Graduate school really pushes a lot of other stuff to the wayside. Second, the book is roughly 700 pages long, which is like way too long to me for something that's going to be a trilogy anyway. And third off, the pace of the chapters is fast. Like there's probably like it's like 170 chapters or something like that. And so the chapters are short, but the story itself moves along rather slowly, which is quite annoying considering that there's really only 4 characters. There's basically I don't remember their full names, but there is Petrov, there's Zhang, and there's Sam Wilson or Sam Waterston or something like that. Petrov is like she's like the main protagonist. She's like basically like an intelligence / military officer for like the galactic government thing. And she has issues with her mom because her mom is like the former director of like intelligence and shit. So she's like a pretty brutal, evil lady, basically. And Petrov is basically constantly trying to gain her respect, even though it's obvious that her mom just thinks of her as kind of like another pawn, or basically thinks of her as too weak or too like soft-hearted to do what needs to be done, shit like that. And this is a theme that pretty much does not change throughout the entire 700-page book. I'm not going to spoil things like the nature of the threat or of the horror aspect necessarily, but it doesn't really show up in any like kind of profound or like meaningful way until probably around 130 or so pages in. You get kind of like in the prologue, which also includes Petrov. So it's like you have the same character perspective basically the entire time. 3 different character perspectives, really. You have Petrov, you have the ship's doctor, Zhang, and you get the perspective of the ship's robot named Rapscallion, who's a fun little like kind of like comedic character. He's like kind of the comedy relief. You know, he's only kind of funny. He's kind of like, you know, stereotype sentient robot, almost like a kind of like Bender from Futurama, except he can just print himself bodies and has like a mind of like a artificial intelligence, but like kind of an older one with less safeties on, so you can kind of like consider things about people. I thought he was going to end up being kind of a threat, but as it turns out, he's just kind of a good guy the entire fucking book. So yeah, you read about Rapscallion, don't let him spook you. He's just going to be chill guy throughout the entire book. yeah, there's Petrov, Zhang, Rapscallion, and then there's also Sam Elliott. Nope, not that. Sam Watson, Sam Wilson, Sam Waterston. Yeah, I don't know. It was Sam something, and he was like a guy that he had like a romantic fling with Petrov at one point. And it's not super important. It ends up not being like super important. Spoiler, I guess. It's a little bit important. There are definitely twists and turns in this book, but it's kind of stuff where it's like you don't always see it coming. Like some of the stuff you see coming. There's a couple things that you don't see coming, particularly related to the characters. But like a lot of the stuff is really kind of telegraphed. The characters themselves are decently well written, which you'd hope they'd be in a 700-page book. But kind of the plot and some of the character relations is where things kind of break down. Like, I'm really not a fan of the whole, like, oh, I still have issues with my parents even as an adult with a functioning career type of trope. And it's like, yeah, you can have issues with your parents, but, you know, if you're, if your mom is literally like, her mom is obviously influential in the book and is a sort of antagonist that's like kind of more of like a mental antagonist throughout most of the book. She does eventually show up in some cases. But it's like, I don't know, just the constant like talk about the relationship with the mom. And someone on Reddit was talking about how it kind of gave off like Cold War, like, oh, this is like a society if like the Soviet Union won the Cold War, and look at how brutal and pragmatic and fucked up everyone is without the semblance of fucking freedom and shit that we have. That has a little flashback. Petrov has a flashback to, I guess, when there was like some unrest on Earth, and then they had to go to the moon for a little while, I assume, to like kind of let things cool down or to like finish killing people down on Earth. And there's like a weird scene of like her and like a maid that doesn't really have anything to do with anything other than gives a little bit of background about the world that they're in, or the universe, I guess. Where it's like, oh yeah, we found this chest full of like different countries' flags, and like one of them is what I believe is supposed to be like a U.S. flag or something like that. And like the nanny with her, because this is a flashback to when Petrov was a kid, like the nanny with her is like, oh, your mother wouldn't like to see that flag. And then I guess like they find, like the soldiers of them find out she'd been playing with the flags, and then they like kill the nanny or whatever in front of her, and like her mom ordered it because it was like, you need to show them that there's no other way for things to be, like this is the only way. And it's like, I don't know. I think like maybe the implication is that it's like, oh, this is like basically fucked up Soviet space. And it's like, okay, I guess, dude, but I don't know how you're going to swing that. It's literally like the only like overt fucking thing. And the fact that it's Petrov, and like, you know, it's basically a lot of the higher up people in the government and in like the galactic system are like people of Eastern European or East Asian descent. And so it seems like that's kind of the implication, where it's like, oh, it's kind of like the global East one or whatever the fuck. And it's like, okay, but it's like not, that's kind of like the only overt thing. Everything else just kind of takes a back seat. And it's like, hey, why'd you even put it in there in the first place, you know? Why put any politics if it didn't really have anything to do with anything? But I mean, I guess it's fine. You can throw whatever you want into a 700-page book. I'm kind of nitpicking here, but like the main issue with Paradise 1 is that it is action-packed. It does have some kind of cool shit, some cool imagery, kind of interesting like ruminations about like, oh, you know, the you know, like death and outer space and like the meaning of life and space exploration and shit like that. It has some sort of like slightly deeper stuff about that, But for the most part, it's a lot of just like, we got to go fix this thing on the ship. All right, now we got to go to this part. How are we going to get through here? Oh, how are we going to do this? It feels a little video gamey at times. It feels a little bit like reminiscent of like Dead Space comes to mind. The video game about like a fucking thing that turns people into like alien zombie monsters, basically. And and in Dead Space, your guy has to go through and kill all the monsters in like one part of the ship and repair stuff in the ship. And this is kind of similar, except they don't really kill that many people. And the nature of the threat that they're dealing with is a little bit different. But it's kind of a similar idea where it's like big hulking space things where it's like, oh, it's like a united humanity. It's like, oh, united under what sort of government? It doesn't matter. Nationalism doesn't exist anymore, and that's a bad thing or good thing. Who knows? Doesn't matter. But yeah, they're constantly trying to fix stuff on this ship, and then it's like, oh, there's a ship getting closer, and it's kind of just like, hey, it kind of reminds me of Foundation a little bit, and it's possible that this is just like a symptom of most like deep space science fiction stuff where it's just like, oh, you have one threat and then you have to outsmart it, and then you have another threat and you have to outsmart it in a different way, and this threat and you deal with force, and this threat you deal with negotiation and diplomacy, and it's like, it's kind of like that sort of thing. They have to go to like kind of other ships that have been stopped near this planet called Paradise 1 that's like a colony that they're checking on. That's the original reason why they're there. These group of three, there's like this pilot, Dr. Zhang, and then Petrov and the robot are kind of grouped together onto the ship, and they're like kind of basically just sent to, I guess, just check in on this planet. And even though it's kind of obvious that the government knows something's fucked up about this planet. But yeah, so it's like, that's the reason why they're going there, and they do encounter other ships that have been, we'll call it compromised, and they have to deal with that. And the whole time you think like, well, it's a 700-page book. They'll eventually get down on the planet, right? Wrong. They don't. It's like, more science fiction references. Hyperion, where it's like, that after all the stuff, they're mostly just on the ship, and then only at the very end do they actually set foot on the planet that they're trying to get to. The title planet, Paradise 1. But in this case, the stories weren't as good because it wasn't like just having an anthology of the best short stories that Dan Simmons wrote. It's all just one big, giant narrative with kind of repeating themes and kind of repetitive action sequences. Where they basically just do the same sort of plot on 3 different ships, and they discover a little bit more each time. But it's like by around like page 250 or so, you kind of already know the nature of the threat, and you're hoping that there's kind of more to it, but it's sort of, it's kind of, it doesn't really get there. It hits a certain level of intensity around page 200 something, and then it just kind of stays there and like kind of wanes, I guess. And there just isn't enough going on. There's a lot of like kind of internal ramblings of the characters and stuff, and it's relatively realistic, and the interactions between the characters are like, pretty good. They're not like a slog. There's not like tons and tons of boring dialogue or anything like that. But there is just like a lot of just like descriptions of the same things and like thinking about the same problems over and over again. And it was one of those books where I started slow, and then I decided to just try and read as much of it as fast as I can. And so I ended up burning through the rest of it. Yeah, I probably burned through about 600 pages in about 3 days or 2 days. And the reason for this was eventually what happens with books that I find kind of boring, and I just kind of want to get through all the middle shit because I know there isn't a lot of like really deep literary value in the prose. And it's like, let me just kind of try and skim through a lot of this kind of stuff building up to the action, and let me just get to the action and see if they actually uncover anything cool. or you know, deal with a new threat or find a new dimension, or like, figure out like kind of who's behind all this. And eventually they do sort of figure that out, but then they figure it out, and it's like, okay, well, now what? And it's like, oh, now what? Now we're going to go to the next book because this book is over and it's been 600, 700 fucking pages. It's like, fuck. This is not to say that it's not an interesting story. Other people reported reading through it really quickly. And I know how they did this. It's just kind of like the space in between the action sequences. There's a lot of action sequences, so those read fast. And then the space in between is kind of like nothing stuff. And so you don't really need to read it super carefully. So, you know, if you're into like kind of sci-fi stuff, and if you don't want your horror to be like too weird, if you kind of like the science fiction and like the hard science fiction deep space stuff more than you know, supernatural horror, you'll like this book. But it is a bit of a slog, and I'm probably not going to read the second one, not only because the first one was already really long, but the second one apparently did not get very good reviews, and it hasn't had there hasn't been a lot of news on the third one. The series itself is called Red Space, which is like, okay, that's like sounds like a callback to Dead Space, to be honest. And then also the threat, the theme of the threat involved is red, the color red, and then that also ties back to like communism and shit, and like the Eastern Bloc of the Cold War. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know exactly what this David Wellington guy is going for. If you know and you want to tell me, let me know, because I'm probably not going to read that. I think I've crossed this one off my list. I'm glad that I read the first one because it has some cool sequences in it. But it's just not really a story that I feel the need to keep continuing. It's quite dark. It's pretty bleak at times. Although it's not like total like, oh, the characters are getting fucking fucked at every turn. It's like it's like pretty bleak stuff, and a lot of some violence, and like kind of, you know, to me as a horror fan, cool gore and stuff like that. But it's kind of just like a little bit dismal, a little bit like, damn, like this shit's still going on for 600 pages in, and everyone's still fucking sad and hopeless. It's like, fuck, dude. Can't have your hopelessness go on for 600 pages, you know? But you can, and that's in Paradise 1. I guess there is a third book coming out. I believe the second one was called fucking... well, there's one called Revenant X coming up, or maybe that's his old book or something like that. Someone was talking about it as a dud. Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to figure out, book is amazing. Which one? It's dialogue. Okay, whatever. I don't remember what it's called, but the series is called Red Space, which isn't a super unique or interesting name, but the story itself is good. I think the author had good ideas. Maybe some of it was a little bit derivative, but overall, I mean, it's readable, especially if you're a science fiction fan. Yeah, so I mean, you get a lukewarm recommendation from me, basically. You know, I shit on stuff a lot, and I really nitpick a lot, but you know, I got through it. It was a relatively quick read. You're not gonna regret wasting tons of time reading it, I don't think. So yeah, David Wellington's Paradise 1 is really a hoot. All right. I don't think I wouldn't exactly describe it as a hoot. So I don't know. Maybe I'll read this psycho Redditor's fucking post later. Yeah, I wouldn't describe it as a hoot. There are funny moments. It has its moment. It has its wit. David Wellington is not like an untalented writer. But I think this could have used an editor. Maybe a more heavy-handed editor. Because a lot of stuff is kind of like, you didn't need all this. You probably could have, if you really wanted to make this story big, you could have kept it all in one book, or you make a bunch of shorter books and make the draw be the action and the fast pace, you know? Because it's kind of hard to make a slow plodding horror in space, because guess what? In space, There's the ship, and there's the space. And there really isn't a whole lot else for description. You can't exactly get a cosmic gothic, because there's no fucking architecture in space except the ship that you're on and then the fucking planets nearby. And if you don't go on the planet, then what's the point? He kind of tried to do it with like the ships themselves and making them seem like, ooh, it's like a labyrinth. And it's like, ooh, spooky and dark on the ships. And it's like, yeah, whatever, dude. It's fucking dark and shit in space. In fact, it shouldn't really be dark. Like, lights should technically be on all the time, because that's how most like space stations and ships and stuff work anyway. Besides, why would you make a ship dark colored? Why? That attracts more solar radiation and more heat and more shit that you don't want going into your ship. All the ships should be white and pretty, like in fucking Star Trek. That's a thing that Star Trek got right, even though I'm not a fan of fucking Star Trek. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really give numerical ratings. I guess I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 5, I guess. Maybe a little less, maybe like a 2.8, but it's like, it's more than like a dead middle. Or it's certainly better than a 2.5. 2.5 is kind of ass. 2.5 is like a C. It's like a C plus to me. Like a C plus, maybe it goes up to a B minus, B area, but depends on your taste. Yeah. So that's about that. Right now I actually also just finished reading oh, Jesus Christ. A collection of stories by Paul Tremblay, who is a writer that I have kind of conflicting feelings about. It's another one where it's like rather talented, but not necessarily, style is not necessarily for me. But I think I'm going to, I really just finished reading it last night, and so I think I might save the discussion for next time I record. I might reread a couple things, make sure I have the stuff going in my head. And maybe I'll get a guest on next time to discuss a little bit, because Paul Tremblay is a very interesting author. He grew up kind of near where I grew up. And shut up. But yeah, very weird horror author. Doesn't feel like it. Sometimes he can write traditional horror stuff, but a lot of his stuff has a very distinctive narrative style. And he tends to get a little bit experimental. So it's pretty interesting shit. Before we go, I've been failing to recommend any music over the past couple of episodes. So let me get back into the swing of that and recommend a little music for this week, or this set of weeks, however long it takes for me to upload this and then record the next one. Okay. Just pulling up my playlist here. Got to get back into position. Fucking come on, Audacity. All right, back in the captain's chair here. Let's pull this up. I've liked a lot of songs recently. I've been trying to really build out my music library, and yeah, I mean it's been going pretty good. I've been listening to a lot of jazz. Flea, the bassist from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, actually put out a jazz album with a jazz ensemble that is pretty good. Some of it is just like kind of weird, like liberal spoken word stuff by Flea, which is like sort of lame, but like sort of cool. He also definitely like sexually assaulted a woman back in the 90s, but he wasn't as bad as like Anthony Cletus or like the other members of Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he seems more musically inclined than any of them, other than maybe John Frusciante. But yeah, I mean, still, he makes a pretty good jazz tune. Well, especially the ensemble around him. What are we looking at? Liked songs. Who else have I been listening to? I've been listening to a lot of indie bands. There's one called Race Course that has a really, I don't know, they just have a really good vibe to it. It's like kind of indie, dream pop, a little bit funky. Pretty cool stuff. Earl Sweatshirt. I've been listening to a lot of Earl Sweatshirt. He's great. He had an album, I believe, last year, and I think he's putting out another single. He put out another single this year, which I thought was okay. I do like a lot of his older stuff. There's some stuff from the newer album that's good too. He's just an all-around very talented artist and songwriter and rapper. So it's a cool guy all around. Also, possibly on the total other end of the spectrum for rap music is EsDeeKid. who is what I believe what the Wikipedia called a scouse or scouse, because he's a scouse rapper, because he grew up in Liverpool allegedly. His background is relatively unknown. He's kind of he's mostly just a presence in music and on the internet. His identity is generally unknown, although there's been kind of a wide range of guesses about who he might be, including up to Timothée Chalamet, which I fucking hope not, because I actually like this guy's music. He goes fucking hard, and he has a really cool accent. The Scouse accent is an accent that's in particularly local to Liverpool, because it's like a port city, and so you get people from all over the world coming in and out of there, and so it creates this kind of sort of like northern and also southern and fucking like scummy back alley fucking accent like that, like kind of like that, except way better. Like he sounds way better than that. This is cool. He's got good flow. He uses like a lot of synth in his beats, which is pretty cool. I'm a big synth guy, especially like retro synth stuff. But yeah, he goes really hard. He just mostly talks about like regular, like pretty like pop rap stuff. Just like, I have money, I have women. Talks about that. I got a good car, I'll fuck you up. Yeah, shit like that. But yeah, overall, solid rapper. He's got a lot of good songs. A lot of them are on my driving playlist now. And so I'm whipping my fucking sedan around the corners going, I'm whipping around the Suburban. It's like, I hope he's not actually non-white. He is a white guy based on the what I can see through his ski mask that he wears on all of his appearances. But you know, if he's Jamaican, that would feel a little bit culturally appropriating. But if he's literally just from Liverpool, I don't give a fuck about Liverpool. Get the fuck out of here. Who gives a shit? I'll do his voice as much as I fucking want. What else we got? Morphine. I downloaded their entire album, The Cure for Pain. I tried to get back into Joy Division a little bit. A lot of early 90s or 80s and early 90s alternative stuff. Joy Division, Fugazi. Fugazi's great. I've gone a little bit back into some classic rock as well, especially some stuff that I haven't listened to since I was like a little kid, like the Beach Boys, God Only Knows, Foreigner, some Bryan Adams. There's also a lot of other weird bands, some black metal, Harifa, Lamp of Murmuur. That's Murmuur with 2 U's in the second Mur. And there's also like kind of some shoegaze bands, or like some shoegaze or neo-psychedelic bands like Vivid Bloom and Dyr Faser. Dyr Faser, spelled Dyrfaser. They're very pretty niche bands. I wouldn't call them local. Well, they're kind of local to me, but shut the fuck up. No, they aren't. You don't know where I am. No one's going to listen to this anyway, and no one's going to listen all the way to the end to the music recommendations, but they're cool bands. I highly recommend listening to them. More 90s alternative, Dinosaur Jr., some kind of like math rock type of like progressive post-rock math rock type of guys. Cusp is one of them. I believe, Giraffes is another one. They have a really cool, like, long form instrumentals. And, some other neo-psychedelic and indie, like Shallowater, one word. Pinback, one word. Ellipsis, and you will know us by the trail of dead. Right? You'll know us by the trail of dead. Yes. That's the name of the band. And you will know us by the trail of dead. That's cool. Ween as well. There's a lot of indie artists. Lots of indie artists. M.J. Lenderman. Skinshape. Steely Dan, that's another classic. More Fugazi. Bill Callahan, he's pretty well known, but he's a very good songwriter. And if you like country and like kind of, especially like kind of old style country mixed with some newer kind of musical trappings, you're gonna like Bill Callahan. And then of course going back to my 2016 fucking rap nostalgia, got like I Get the Bag by Gucci Mane and featuring Migos before Takeoff was killed in a tragic fucking murder, basically. Some recent J. Cole, some old punk like Stiff Little Fingers and Fiddlehead, and more Cusp, because I really liked them. Champion Trees, a band called GOON, which is like not a great name anymore, but they're like another kind of crazy math rock type of band. Do a lot of instrumentals. Stone Temple Pilots. I downloaded the live MTV Unplugged version of Creep, which is the best version of Creep. I also tried to get a little bit into like kind of dance and hyperpop a little bit. The group Underworld that made the song Born Slippy, which is like a UK fucking club tune that's really popular in the UK, and it was in Trainspotting, I believe, the movie Trainspotting. And I don't know. I don't like it that much. Like the full song, it has like its cool moments and like the memeable moments, like the stuff that shows up in Instagram reels, but a lot of it is kind of just repetitive beats and shit. Fucking kick drum, 808s, whatever. Yeah, and some more rappers: Armand Hammer, The Alchemist, more Earl Sweatshirt, Mac Miller, Isaiah Rashad is a cool one. Some recent Silver Sun pickups, which is cool. Cameron Winter, lead singer from Geese, also has his solo stuff under Cameron Winter. And then there's like kind of a metal slash grindcore band, Snuffed on Sight, which is pretty cool. They have some good stuff. More weird indie shit, Go-Go Penguin. I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't even know what the fuck that is anymore. And then, going back all the way to something I should have talked about a while ago, there's a band called Hers, which is very popular in certain parts of the internet. They were about to take off. They were a duo. They were like a indie dream pop rock duo out of England. And they were really about to take off. They were doing a U.S. tour in 2019 where they were killed in a head-on collision. They have a lot of songs, and they have a very devoted cult following. And I've sort of become that. I like some of their songs. Not everything's a hit, because they really only put out like 20 songs before the end of their lives and careers. But overall, pretty cool stuff. Coco Roca. I believe some of these are jazz stuff, because I've been trying to listen to some more jazz. There's Coco Roca, Nubian Twist, Nubian with a Y, Nubiyan Twist, and Booty Brown, Snarky Puppy, Matropol, a little bit of experimental sludge rock through Boris, pretty cool, and Crowbar. And also some other stuff. Beach House, The Muffs, Alice in Chains, Tame Impala, all sorts of things. I've been listening to a lot of music. I'd love to do a better music episode once I have something that I actually want to talk about and that I actually have time to research properly. Or, when I have a guest, I gotta get some guests on who I can talk about music with. There are some local bands in my area. Been thinking about getting some of them on the podcast. So that might be cool for a future episode if I can actually get the time and the cojones to make that happen. But we'll have to see. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Make sure to check out the podcast social media on Blue Sky, on Mastodon, and on Instagram, and on YouTube, and coming soon to probably YouTube Shorts and most likely Spotify and possibly TikTok as well. We'll see. We got to see. All right? We got to see. Yeah. Not a ton of social media activity. I know. It's been tough out here. Been tough out here for part-time podcasters like myself. But you know what? We're making it happen. We've put out this will be the 34th or probably I guess 35th or 36th piece of content in total, 34th actual episode. But you know, we have 36 big chunks of content out on the YouTube page within a year, which isn't terrible. There's a lot of content creators who do a lot worse. But those ones tend to be more famous and monetizable than me. So we'll have to see how this goes. But kind of once I finish my degree, I'm thinking I really try and step this fucking podcast up. I'm also probably going to move, so then I can talk shit about the place that I used to come from and not get doxxed immediately. So that'll be cool. That'll open up a whole new dimension once I can actually kind of talk about where I used to be geographically. That'll be cool. But yeah, in the meantime, check out the social medias. Like, subscribe, comment, fucking share this podcast with a friend if you know it. Do anything to drive engagement. I'll do anything to drive engagement except make this a full-time podcast. That's it. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.